Welcome to Hack Talks, brought to you by NetWitness Incident Response Team, your weekly dive into the hottest picks, the strangest twists, and you couldn't make this up moments in global security. Every week, we break down what's happening out there and challenge a bit of conventional thinking. And of course, we crown this week's epic fail. My name's Gordon Dixon, your host based in Glasgow, Scotland. And I'm joined as always by Stefano Macalia, the director based in Rome, Italy. Ciao, Stefano.
Ciao, Gordon. Ciao, everyone.
And James Sobel, Senior Manager in Merritt Island, Florida. Hi, James.
Hey, reporting for duty.
Straight from the launch pad, as I can see.
You will be assimilated.
All right, let's start with in the news, the stories that grabbed our attention this week. There's been no shortage of eyebrow raisers. And Stefano, what's caught your eye? What do you bring to us today?
Absolutely. I tell you, BitLocker is typically one aspect that one tool that is obviously planned to protect us, to protect our data, to protect our computers, and potentially can help overall ensuring privacy of our data. Okay, but was supposed to be part of Windows you didn't have to worry about. The strong silent type that keeps your laptop secret safe when it's left on a train, when you forgot to lock the computer itself, whatever. But then along comes the yellow key, which says, give me a USB stick, one reboot into recovery, and I will swap that friendly blue WinRAR screen for a common prompt with your encrypted drive already unlocked. This is the outcome of the recent yellow key exploitation technique that has been published. And it's obviously a big risk. And it's something that make me think about, as usual, the unthinkable. And I will bring this to you because while it's obviously not a content for an epic fail, it's something to reflect about. James, what do you think?
I think, this is concerning. You always think about, my laptop's encrypted. Maybe if it gets stolen, maybe if I lose it, so what, right? There's no way they're going to get that data off of there. Really, that idea is shattered. It's broken. I think this is a lesson to all of those people who are careless with their devices. Maybe you leave the hotel room for a little while and go somewhere. You need to think of that laptop like the value of that device, right? If you paid a few $1,000s for that device, when you leave it somewhere, you think about leaving that amount of cash just hanging out. Because if somebody is really determined, they can get in. And the last thing I'll say, guys, just looking into this, this is a great topic, Stefano. It almost seems too good to be true. Like Microsoft planned it. Like, how could they kind of create this recovery thing that just defeats the disk encryption? Conspiracy theorists should have a fun time with this one. Gordon, what do you think?
It's probably a timely reminder because, if we go back 10, 15 years, it was all about, your laptop. When we all worked in offices together, you weren't even allowed to get up from your desk, even in the office, before you'd locked your screen, hadn't you? And you were kind of giving yourself the opportunity for your colleague to type, incriminating things on your screen for you to return from the coffee machine. So maybe we've forgotten that, hardware devices, the things that we carry around with us, if they're not in our possession, if they're not secure with us, then they are at risk, just like not changing your password or not patching and updating your security features. So a timely reminder that to look after your kit, look after your tech for sure.
Yeah, exactly. If it's kind of like, we are obviously focused on remote attacks, obviously focused on cloud environments, our data potentially stolen from, let's say, our email provider or our Dropbox or our storage into the cloud. But we need to keep in mind that there are other vectors for, let's say, having similar result at the physical level. So again, I brought this to you guys because I think it's important to keep an eye on every different dimension of our operations daily. And this is going surely at the physical level on our laptops, on our infrastructure, but it's still a remarkable aspect to recover, to keep in mind whenever we, let's say, approach the cybersecurity of our personal life. Okay.
Absolutely. And James, now on to you. What caught your eye? What stopped you scrolling this week?
Oh, this is something that really annoys me. You want to trigger James, and this kind of story triggers me. It's about a hotel check-in system used for identity verification. And the company behind this is fairly obscure, but I bet you the hotel names that use it aren't. And they lost more than 1 million documents exposing individuals' sensitive information. And I'm not just talking about, well, maybe the last four of Social Security or maybe a credit card, but we're talking verification photos and passports and ID information, right? Something that an attacker could use to steal your identity and make your life terrible, right? This has a huge impact on the hospitality environment. And basically the vendor here, again, this is a story we've talked about many times in the past. You're collecting a lot of sensitive information, you're pushing it to the cloud, and then you're making easy cybersecurity mistakes. And in this case, this repository was just left open and unprotected, and that allowed all kinds of access that should have never happened. Again, another story of the end vendor that you're dealing with, the end vendor, I should say, that you're dealing with, the hotel chain or what have you. They say it's secure. I need your information. It's secure. And we have a service for that. But the service provider then letting them down, right? The hotel not doing their diligence and understanding what the risks are here and ensuring that that the proper security protocols are followed. I have to say again, I mentioned that this is something that really frustrates me. You go to check in at a hotel, it's automated. There's nobody at the desk. It's late. You want to just get to sleep, right? And now they're asking you for your passport photo and they want to scan it, and it's just some box sitting on the counter. It's a pretty scary situation. You don't have any choice. It's really hard to know how to protect yourself in this situation. Guys, have you ever faced this? Does this bother you as much as it does me?
Sure, man. And I will also tell you, I briefly want to jump into a specific actor, let's say, ideas. APT-39 from Iran. I remember several times in the past investigating in the Middle East this actor. This actor was absolutely laser focused on passports, on identities, looking for data, for travel data, stuff like that. Of course, we cannot really be into these attacker mind, but the, let's say, focus on these type of elements was really what caught my eyes during the investigations. And for one like APT-39, also known as Chef, to find this type of data readily available is a trove of gold. So again, in this case, exactly following up to the case I brought, we are getting back to the point where our data is stolen from cloud, from environment that left open with the key on the door. And for sure, this is a big and significant alert again and again that we always discuss into talks about the fact that we need to ensure at the minimum basic level of protection to any data that we manage. And again, this is a typical example of the contrary. Gordon, what do you think?
Well, I'm reflecting on the idea of the passport photo. So my passport's 9 years old. I'll be renewing it soon, later this year. So the good news for me is I look nothing like what Gordon 9 years ago did. There's a little bit more going on. So I'm less concerned about seeing that photo out there. It might actually be quite flattering if people were to pretend to be me of 9 years ago. But what's interesting is that targeting of that end vendor, as you say, James, is about knowing where those vulnerabilities are. It's not going after the big hotel chain because maybe they have the resources to protect themselves. It's actually where they are now outsourcing the collection and processing of these key information, and that's really revealing. And that's something we've seen in the past as well. It's not these big names that people are going after, it's these sort of support functions or services that are actually where the critical data ends up. And I think that's probably a real eye-opener for a lot of our viewers and listeners today.
Yeah, spot on, Gordon, spot on. And I got to say, so you might ask yourself, so what do I do as an individual? Guess what? Not a ton you can do, right? But when somebody asks you for this information, push back if you can. Why do I need to do that? And then if you do need to, give them that information, your passport photo, remember, it's just like you're holding it up and showing everybody else in the room. So just get comfortable with that fact and prepare yourself in other ways if you can.
Resistance is futile.
Now on to the moment of truth. This week's epic fail. This is where we look at a cyber blunder, a slip up, or a downright questionable decision, and we rate it on our epic fail scale from 0 to 10. 0 is basically a rounding error, mostly harmless, and 10 is the full what the FIM were you thinking. So let's break down today's contender. And Stefano, this week's epic fail comes from you. What have you got for us?
Only in 2026 do you get an education company where the plot twist isn't the dog ate my homework, but an extortion distributed attacker ate everyone's homework, their DMs and their students' ID, and we had to negotiate with it like it was a slightly disgruntled exam board. This is what happened to Instructor, the company behind the Canvas LMS used by thousands of schools and university, which has disclosed recently that it has reached an agreement with the decentralized extortion crew, the usual friends and shiny antlers, after their major breach. Shiny Hunter exploited a weakness is in a free for teacher program that was available in internet and related account logic, then pivoted inside Instructor and infiltrated an estimate of 3.65 terabytes of data, touching nearly 9,000 institutions worldwide. Stolen data includes names, email addresses, students' IDs, course enrollments, private messages. What you think, obviously, a structure, an infrastructure like that can potentially hold. So, guys, again, if you look, I don't go to technical detail that much, but if you look at the way these, let's say, breach happened, it was pretty basic. So again, the problem is always the same. If we prefer to organize our data, our delivery, our structures, connecting them with the internet, please don't leave the keys of the kingdom on top of the door, the main door, because otherwise it's obviously creating this type of situation over and over again. James, what you think?
I think part of the epic in this one is going after the educational training infrastructure. Boy, that hurts, right? you don't often think organizations like that need to focus on security, but here's where they do. And there's nowhere else but academia and other organizations where, do as I do, not as I say, right? They should follow well defined. If there's any groups and organizations who should know what to do, these fall into that category. And for me, that's the epic part of this. I wouldn't want to come up against the shiny hunters. I don't want to be in those guys' target. Okay, you don't have a choice. So do what you can.
That means I will not pay, even if you breach me, guys. So go ahead, whatever is your plan.
I'll say it differently. There's really nothing here to get. I haven't got anything to give you guys. Yeah, I'm hoping not to end up in your targets. And in this case, if you do, yeah, don't leave the keys to the safe sitting out on the table, because you're just making it easy for them. Gordon, how's this sounding to you?
Yeah, I think it goes back because it's around this time. Obviously, here in Scotland, the schools are finishing. There's exams going on at the moment, and it's the news item every summer where they go to the schools and see the kids, getting the results. And if there is any kind of delay in that information getting to the school kids, it's in Parliament. It's the top of the news story, and people get fired because of it. So people recognize that the impact, that's a big story. It's a big attention grabbing audience to go after. And I think that's something that an organization, with the resources that Shiny Hunters have and that level of attack, is not just about what they're able to win and access, but also what will give them the biggest impact and give them most likely to, get what they want out of it. So I think, that's something any public facing or popular organization or configuration, you must be making sure, because they are after you, because they know that you never want to be breached in that kind of way.
To the point, I just want to tell you, for me, this is a 9. It can be potentially less than that, considering the size of the data exfiltrated is roughly, as anticipated, a bit less than 4 terabytes, which is, compared to other breaches we discussed, is small, right? But the problem is that, again, the way they get into this environment is pretty basic. They don't walk any extra miles in technical complexity. From the other perspective, also, the timing is obviously, as you, Gordon, highlighted, is not a randomic thing. They decided to target and to, let's say, create a problem exactly at the end of the term, which is obvious for them, is to capitalize on whatever opportunity they have. But the question, again, is that they, the ones that were managing this data, do not scrutinize how this data was stored, where this data was stored, who can access what, and there were not the basic things that are needed to manage private information and private data. So in my idea, again, is a good example of recklessness. So this is the reason for the 9. Otherwise, potentially can be a 7. But again, also there is the target, the pupils, the students, universities, high schools. So I consider this a very significant example of lack of, let's say, preparation and management of the basic elements of the cybersecurity. So it's a 9. Guys.
Initially I was like, this is a 7. I mean, it's an epic fail. It is epic and it is a failure, but I'm like, it's a 7. But Stefano, you just convinced me. So you really checked down the boxes there, right? The people who were attacked, pupils, the timing of the attack, the fact that just basic stuff was ignored. So 8.5 for me. Definitely, this is scary stuff, guys.
Yeah. We don't have like criteria for our scoring. We very much go on what we share and what we discuss. But I think what's described here could almost be the definition of a 9. And the only times we've gone higher is when the scale of it has been, phenomenal. So I think this is, as you say, Stefano and James, this is a solid 9.
This week, serendipity floor with 9.
And be warned, don't leave the key on the latch. Before we wrap, let's flip the mood with this week's mighty win. Something uplifting from the cyber world, a moment of competence, cleverness, or just a rare feel-good story in sometimes gloomy landscape. And this week's mighty win comes from you, James. What have you got for us today?
A pretty big victory here, right? Our friends and colleagues and the good people at Mozilla have taken a look at the Claude Mythos preview, and instead of the usual, hey, AI bug fix slop that is out there, right? And it's just thousands of sometimes trivial type elements. No, the folks at Mozilla, right? The Firefox creators have taken the preview of Claude Mythos and they've wrapped a process around it. So they're not only looking for the obvious bugs, the obvious slop, but entrenched vulnerabilities that it may have been there for decades. And not just how do you find those bugs, but how do you validate them? How do you fix them? How do you get a workable solution, not just a soundbite out of this, right? So this is a preview of a very positive future where, right, the kind of the latent technical bug debt gets addressed and fixed, and AI in the right hands with the right guardrails and process around it levels the playing field so that some of these, it was too easy, it was an obvious attack, those things are going to go away, and it really does give the defenders an advantage. But just again, I mean, this wasn't, somebody typed in one prompt and hit enter and then they got a result, right? There was a lot of work that went into, using these tool sets in a smart way with a lot of advanced understanding from both the human side and the technical side. Great win, guys. What do you think?
Really a big applause to Mozilla and to the Claude developers, because this is what really the AI can help with. And this is a very good example of how the AI can really support the cybersecurity community to get beyond their, let's say, limits and go beyond the, let's say, the thinkable to define and to find and to, let's say, patch significant vulnerabilities. I recently heard about another vulnerability found into the FreeBSD checked by Mythos, and I am glad about these steps into the proper direction. But I also want to, let's say, turn again the alarm on for, let's say, whenever we present the AI as a solution. The AI use it the way that James anticipated, the way the Mozilla use it is the perfect example of how to work exactly the way AI should work as a tool, helping people. And there is yet a big chunk of manual analysis, data, and work to complement the AI to really spot what is the real vulnerability, to confirm the vulnerability, to understand the problem, and to patch it. So again, I really like these news, and I am happy to hear more about these from multiple companies. And we obviously also highlight the fact that Mythos should be in the hands of the proper people, not fully released to the general usage exactly for this type of situations. But great work, guys. I am really happy, and thanks, James, to highlight this. Gordon.
Absolutely. And it's reassuring to know that as cybersecurity professionals, that experts with knowledge, with experience, know what they're looking for. And I suppose I'm trying to keep positive, but there's a bit of me that's asking what would have happened if these guys hadn't had done this and hadn't have put the platform through this kind of scrutiny and research. So it's a timely reminder that, you know, this is an important step in the development of any solution, that it has a proper and robust security audit in some way, you know, to ensure that it is working correctly, and there are no things hiding in the background that maybe have not been spotted before, or have been brought in from another feature or another aspect. So yes, a timely reminder that this is what a win looks like, but, you know, an important reason why everyone should be doing this in the first place.
You have been watching Hack Talks.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of this episode 13. We survived. We made it through. So a huge thanks to Stefano and James for joining me today. And thanks you for tuning in. This has been Hat Talks from the NetWitness Incident Response team. We'll see you next time. So it's goodbye from me, Gordon Dixon in Glasgow, and Stefano.
Ciao from Rome.
And James.
Signing off from Florida. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.